Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Attorney Odunlami, immigration attorney from the Odunlami law firm, and we're located in New Jersey, but we serve clients in all 50 states of the United States as long as it's immigration. We focus our practice on family-based and humanitarian immigration. So I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm not going to take a lot of questions. I'm not even sure I can take questions because I have to rush off to pick up my son. But I wanted to come in real quick because I have a really great topic for you guys. And I have a conference all day tomorrow, so I figured I should just do it today. So it's a short live, but I will make it up to you guys the next time. I will take more questions. But I promise you this will make up for it because the topic I'm talking about is something that most of you have not heard about. So for those who are just meeting me for the first time, like I said, my name is Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney in New Jersey, serving clients throughout the United States and abroad if you want to come to the United States. I'm an immigration attorney. I'm also an immigrant, as you can hear. So it is my pleasure to assist fellow immigrants in getting legal status. So we're going to talk about the T visa today, trafficking. That's what we're going to talk about. So if you are interested in this or you know somebody who could be interested, call them now. Let's get started. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe so that when I come on, you're alerted and you can listen to what I have to talk about. So trafficking is another way to get a green card. So when you say trafficking, everybody thinks of trafficking about as young girls who are being trafficked for sex, right? That's the general understanding of trafficking. But a lot of people don't know that for immigration purposes, there's also something called labor trafficking. And labor trafficking is actually more common, at least in my office anyway. We get more cases of labor trafficking. And but the thing is this, there are a lot of people who would qualify to get a green card through the T visa, which is actually quicker than other humanitarian pathways. Like it's quicker than the VAWA, quicker than U visa, quicker than asylum. But a lot of people don't know that they're being trafficked. So when a potential client comes to my office, they don't come in and say, I'm being trafficked, because they don't know. Because they don't know the proper definition of trafficking in immigration law. And that's why I want to discuss this, so that if this is something that pertains to you or somebody you know, next time you go to an attorney, you want to be able to ask them to give them the right information. So I had a consultation today. And the thing about the T visa is a lot of people that don't qualify for anything, they qualify. T visa might be a way for them. So let me give you the definition of trafficking. Trafficking is when a person is forced to provide labor or commercial sex trafficking. When a person is forced to provide labor or commercial sex through force, fraud, or coercion. And that's a key word, right? Providing labor or commercial sex through force, through fraud, or through coercion. So I'm going to define what force, fraud, and coercion means, and then I will go into different types of trafficking situations. There's so many, but I'm going to give you a couple that at least will get you guys thinking, right? So force can be for people. Force can be, of course, when somebody is forcing you to do something. They're threatening you. They're telling you there's going to be repercussions. They're taking your will again away from you. That's force. We all know what force is, right? Then fraud could be lying to you, telling you that you're going to get something just to get you to do what they want you to do. It could be what you may call it, giving you a wrong impression of certain things. They tell you one thing, but then when the situation comes to fruition, it's totally different from what you knew. Or they tell you things to put you in fear so that you are not you're not aware of the rights that you have, right? Or coercion is, when they're putting pressure on you to do something, So there are many ways that you can get forced to a trafficking situation, or you can get fraudulently, put in a trafficking situation, or you can be coerced into a trafficking situation, right? So now, let's talk about the examples of trafficking. I know you guys want to hear this, right? So, trafficking, like, let's talk about labor trafficking, because sex trafficking is kind of clear, commercial sex, forcing someone into prostitution or getting someone to be a prostitute against their will. That's, sex trafficking. And if the person is under a certain age, that's automatically, a T visa right there, right? So now labor trafficking could be when you're working for somebody, right? You have an employer. It could be somebody who offered you a job before you came into the country and told you they're going to pay you, say they're going to pay you $12 an hour, and you're going to work 40 hours a week. And then you come into the country and you find out that you're actually working 60 hours a week and you're making significantly less than what they told you. It could be working with somebody who puts you in a really dangerous work situation, right? But you can't do anything or say anything because they threaten to call authorities on you. Maybe they threaten to have you deported, or they tell you that they're going to blacklist you. You're not going to get a job from anybody else, or they tell you that you can only work. The only reason that you're working is because you're working for them. Nobody else is going to be able to employ you. They can threaten you with calling the police or any of that. So that could be when that is labor trafficking, when through an employer, they don't properly compensate you, or they put you in a dangerous situation. And a lot of times when the force, fraud, or coercion comes to place, is sometimes they're in charge of taking you to the place of work, or sometimes they've told you that you can't leave the house because if you leave the house, you're going to get deported, or the USCIS is going to be after you. And so they put you in fear. You're afraid. You can't go anywhere. And you're forced to continue working the horrible job conditions that they have given you, right? Now, there is also trafficking situation, which starts off with smuggling, but becomes a trafficking situation. So say you came in through the border, right? And you hired a coyote to bring you over. And then they bring you over, but they force you to take things, right? And these people are dangerous people, so you don't really have a choice. They force you to carry stuff. That's labor, and you're not being compensated for it. And a lot of times when these situations happen, they bring you to the United States, they put you in an accommodation where they're forcing you to do certain domestic chores. You can't leave. Even if you want to leave and go back to your country, you're not allowed to leave, And a lot of times they threaten you about what would happen to you if you didn't do what they told you to do, right? So that could be a trafficking situation as well. Another trafficking situation could be when you are with a domestic partner, could be your spouse, right? And your spouse doesn't have to be a US citizen, right? So you're with a spouse who maybe when you were dating in your country, as an example, they tell you that, they can't wait for you to come over and get married and live happily ever after. And then you come in to the United States based on this romantic relationship and the idea that this is going to be something wonderful for you. And then you come in and find out that your spouse or your partner, could be a boyfriend, girlfriend, or even a family member, right? Now, put you to work. Maybe they actually brought you to take care of their aging mother, right? Or they brought you to take care of their children, and you're doing the chores in the house and you're not being compensated, right? That is trafficking in a domestic situation, right? And there's a lot of trafficking situations with people who work as nannies, people who work as caretakers for the elderly. A lot of times they're put in a position where they're working so many hours that they're not being paid for the hours they're working. They don't have a say, in the work, the work that they do. right? So we see a lot of people who came in here on their own, B1, B2, and then looked to get a job, and then they got themselves in a trafficking situation where sometimes their employer will take their passport supposedly because they're trying to make sure that they don't run away with their kids. Like anybody is gonna, like any immigrant really wants to steal your child, right? And then they take your passport and you can leave, and then you're there working all hours, taking care of their child, and they're paying you peanuts. That's a trafficking situation. And we find that there's a lot of people in this country in this situation, but they don't realize they're being trafficked. So another situation of trafficking could be, let's see, what else? I think I've talked about. It could be somebody who brings you over here and then tells you that you have to work off the cost of bringing you over here, right? That's another trafficking situation. You have to work off the cost that they incurred when they brought you here. There's so many trafficking situations. So if you're in a situation where you're working and you're not getting paid enough, you're being put in dangerous situations, or you're with somebody and you're doing all the work, even if it's domestic work, and they're getting value for it, right? You might want to talk to an attorney who does a lot of T visas to see if there's a trafficking situation that you qualify for. Now, let me tell you the advantages of a T visa. Well, first of all, the T visa doesn't care how you came in, whether you crossed the border, whether your visa is expired, does not care, doesn't matter. Another good another advantage of the T visa is it allows you to get a green card without having to leave the United States. So you guys know that if you come to the United States through coming through the border, and you are not inspected or admitted, or paroled in for, you will not be able to adjust your status. But when you have a T visa, when you qualify for a T visa and you apply for it and you get, it doesn't matter. Once you get the T visa, you're on the pathway to getting your green card, right? Now, another advantage of the T visa is you don't need a relative to file for you. A T visa is your own petition based on the trafficking situation. And another great thing about the T visa is your derivatives. You can, your derivatives could be your parents, could be your spouse, could be your children, could be your siblings, right? There are different criteria for which family members could be a derivative, but the T visa has the largest group of derivatives that I'm aware of in humanitarian immigration. So that's really great. So sometimes you have somebody who qualifies for VAWA because they're married to a US citizen, right? And they've been abused, but they also qualify for T visa because there's been a trafficking situation where there's some form of labor trafficking, right? And then you have to weigh which one works best, right? Sometimes you have to look at the situation the person is in, right? Is it better for them to file a T visa, which is quicker, by the way, or is it better for them to go with VAWA, right? Do they have siblings that could be a part of the T visa? Do they have family that would be, that would be a part of would be derivatives? So whether you choose to go with a VAWA or U visa or a T visa, a lot of times it depends on the person's situation. But the good thing is that a lot of people that don't qualify for anything else, a T visa would be what works for them, because a T visa is very forgiving. It forgives a lot of inadmissibilities. It forgives false claims to citizenship. You can file a waiver for that only with a T visa, only if you're being trafficked, and even a sham marriage. So if you're in a trafficking situation, you should talk to a lawyer and see whether this is something that could work for you, right? So let's talk about the requirements. What do you need to do to be able to file your T visa? So the first thing you have to do is you have to report the trafficking situation to a law enforcement agency. Could also be Department of Labor, right? Now, the report, typically the attorney will file the report if, will file the report. And another good thing about the T visa is it doesn't matter how long the trafficking situation is. We have people who came in maybe in the early 2000s, and there was a trafficking situation at some point, And they can still file for T visa if they can show that they remained in the United States as a result of the trafficking. And that's something that a lawyer who does T visas will be able to get the information from the client to be able to meet that requirement, right? So you have to report to the LEA, Law Enforcement Agency. It's not a big deal, so nothing to be worried about. And the good thing about this is that you don't need a certification from them to be able to get approved for a T visa, unlike the U visa, which you need a certificate of helpfulness from the police or some law enforcement agency, right? With the T visa, you don't need them to approve it. You don't need them to find trafficking, all right, for you to win a T visa case. Now, like I said, you have to show that you're in the United States on account of the trafficking, or that you remained here as a result of the trafficking. So for those people who came in because they were trafficked in, that's pretty easy. And if you're here, you might have remained here just because the physical abuse or the psychological abuse that you suffered, you're going to need to continue to get some kind of help here, or maybe the legal services that you need, or the assistance you're providing to the police or law enforcement requires you to be here. But that's not something you should worry about. You let your attorney ask you the questions that will determine whether you can prove that component. Now, you also have to show that you would suffer extreme hardship if you were removed from the country, right? So how do you apply 602? Guys, I have 5 more minutes. How do you apply for the T visa? Well, you use the form I-914. That's the form you use for the T visa. And of course, like most humanitarian applications, you have to have a personal affidavit that discusses the incidents of trafficking that you found yourself in, right? And how you suffered as a result of that. You want to show that you want to provide proof that you've notified a LEA, legal law enforcement agency, about the trafficking situation. You have to show proof of that, which would mean attaching the letter and the way you mailed it. We in our office, we mail by some form of mail that's trackable, so that we can show that it was received, right? And then if you're applying for a family member, you want to file I-914 Supplement A. If for some reason the law enforcement agencies gives you a certification, they would submit I-914 Supplement B. And another thing you have to submit is proof that you will suffer extreme hardship if you had to leave the United States. So that's pretty much it. Once your case is approved and you get T visa, you also get a work permit, right? And once you've had your T visa status for 3 years, you can now qualify to apply for your adjustment of status to get your green card. Now, remember, for you to be able to apply for the T visa, you have to be in the United States, right? And if you leave the United States, you will no longer qualify for the T visa unless there was another trafficking situation when you came in, or another trafficking situation that arose when you came in the second time. So guys, I know you guys have questions, but I have to run because it's 6:04. But next week I will do another live and I will take questions, okay? So until then, take care. Bye-bye.